Hello, hello. Ooh, 3 people. That's exciting. Hello, Commenge Nerd, and hello, Applehead. Waiting for Floyd Bromley to wake up. Well, I'm here. I was a minute late. It's better than last time. I was 5 minutes late. Okay, so first off, last night, what the hell happened? For those of you who don't know, live stream was shut down randomly by YouTube 3 times. And I found out that basically because of the whole situation in the world at the moment, YouTube is running more than usual on robots, and they are triggering unnecessarily. So I don't know if things will be better tonight. We'll just have to see. But here's the backup plan. If this stream gets shut down completely, and I'm pretty sure you'll all get a message saying that, community guidelines or whatever. If it gets shut down, I'm going to move to Instagram and I'm going to go live on Instagram. And then I will record that and upload it to YouTube at a later date. So for anyone who's got Instagram, you can join me on Instagram if that happens. I guess I will put in a notice in the chat. Latecomers with this Instagram. Live, yeah. All right, so there's a notice in the chat, so that hopefully if this stream gets shut down, everyone will know. And since I deleted I should mention, I did get the 3 streams that I attempted last night, I did get them reviewed, and they're all cleared, but it's a bit too little too late. So, yes, and yeah, I've deleted those recordings, so they're a bit pointless. So yeah. So we'll start with channel updates. Sorry for those of you who joined last night and have heard this before, but anyway, no video expected for the next few weeks because I'm at uni and I'm very busy. I can't say when I will be able to edit a video. It just depends on a lot of things. So, topic. Stream about railways, I'm pretty sure, and a few stories from Mervets in different streams, but yeah, here's a story of an adventure that I don't think that I talked about on my urbexing. Okay, let's move that. Hello, we're here. Yes, so YouTube shut me down. We lasted 4 minutes 30 seconds. So, successful. Anyway. Okay, we're back. This light I don't really know how to deal with properly. It's kind of going to be bad no matter what I do. Let me try. YouTube shut me down because of violating community guidelines, which I haven't actually done, but yeah, because of the whole virus situation at the moment, I'm unable to live stream for some odd reason. I don't know. Anyway, so channel updates for the 5th time. No video expected in the next few weeks. And here are some stories from the random adventures which I've had over the years. So this is a story about urbexing. I don't think I talked about this in my urbexing live stream that I did a while ago on YouTube. But yeah, so I'd originally planned with Les to do a 3-week adventure to Western and Northwestern Victoria, and we were going to be urbexing all day, every day, pretty much. And it was planned out to the half hour, no joke. So it was very rigidly planned, and that was our ultimate downfall, because pretty much every place we went to took longer than we thought, for good reasons. Like, they were all fantastic places. Yeah, like some of my favourite urbexing places of all time I saw on that trip. But yeah, it was rigidly planned. So anyway, we'd planned for 3 weeks, and it ended up being cut back to 2 weeks. And why was that the case? It was because we were both sort of sick and tired of it. And a lot of urbexers out there can relate to the feeling that, I could urbex all day, every day, and I would never get sick of it. And that's how we thought, until we tried it, and we got sick of it. So yeah. Angus, the trip was to Western and Northwestern Victoria. We sort of just made our way to different towns. Yeah. We'd originally planned to go as far northwest as Mildura, but we didn't quite make it that far. I'm trying to think, where did we make it to? I think at about the 2-week mark, we'd come all the way out west to as far as Nil, and then we'd sort of started heading north, and then, yeah, I really can't remember where we were. I think we were probably about 50-odd k's north of Nil, something like that. And yeah, we just got sick of it. Everything was taking longer than expected, and so we decided that we just wanted to do a sort of, I was going to say highlights trip, but not even. Yeah, we did go to Japarrit Applehead. We filmed the, which line is it? The Yarpeat line, I think. Let me look that up. Because there's two lines in that area. Oh, wrong map. Yeah. So we walked we drove, the line from Yanak to Japarat, and then we also looked at the line from Rainbow to Yarpeet. So, yeah, Japarat is on the Yarpeet line. The line from Rainbow to Yarpeet is abandoned, so yeah, it's probably not the most interesting abandoned line, but hey, the tracks are still there, and it's the only abandoned standard gauge line in Victoria. So there's a fun little fact for you. And so yeah, we got to Hopeton. Now that I'm looking at a map, and I think we got to Patchwallock, and we might have made it. I think Patchwallock was about where we quit. And then we sort of did a very rough highlights tour. We did a few things in Oyen, did a couple of things in Colwyn, and then pretty much went home. Hopeton line is still open, yes, as far as Hopeton. And then it's abandoned, well, there's no tracks beyond Hopeton to Patchwallock. So yeah, it was a cool trip. We saw everything from an old mental hospital, which, my God, that was a big explore. We did that over 2 days and ended up getting kicked out by the security guard. So that was fun times. And Les took the brunt of the security guard's rage when he found us. G'day, Benny. And so Les, he avoids conflict at all cost. And here he was in direct line of fire, and so he really didn't take it well. And he was mentally scarred for the rest of the trip and more. He was afraid to go into any place. I think I might have mentioned this on my urbexing stream, but I'll mention it again anyway. We got caught 3 times in 1 week, and on that trip, and almost got caught a 4th time. So yeah, that was very interesting. We got off all times, but yeah. So yeah, that's just a bit about the urbexing road trip, and yeah, it was really the beginning of the end for Fogarty Avenue and everything. It's a bit hard to explain without you knowing Les personally and stuff, but yeah. Anyway, so I've covered Urbex road trip. I will talk about now the thumbnail, which you will have all seen by now because you're on Instagram, or maybe you haven't, but anyway. I went for a random adventure in the Alpines, and this was December, the past December, and what I was doing there was I was looking for campsites. I had planned to go camping at some stage with a bunch of friends, and we wanted a campsite that was remote, so very few people, or at least it felt remote. Yeah, we wanted something that felt remote and had few people in it. If you haven't seen the thumbnail, it's in my story. I don't know how you can view it now that I'm live. Anyway, it's just a picture of my car with some, at twilight, with some trees in the background and stuff. And so, yeah, this was a cool trip because I was scoping out campsites. I didn't think the trip would take that long, and so I'd always planned for it to be a day trip, but I left quite late. I left home at maybe 12. No, maybe not that late. I think about 11. It was in that region though. But, you know, if I'm going a fair distance and I want to be back home by the end of the day, it's still a fair distance to cover. And so, yeah, I left late. And so, therefore, I was out a lot later than I thought I would be. So, yeah, I started off by going to Lacolla, the town of Lacolla. And for those of you who don't know, it's one of very few towns in the Alpine region of Victoria. There are very few main roads going through the region, considering the size of it. And so, yeah, it was just it's a huge area, and everywhere than you think it will, because it's mountainous terrain, and so the roads are really twisty. And, you know, even if the speed limit is 60 or something, your average speed ends up being something like, I don't know, 40, maybe even less, because you're slowing down for all the curves. It's a good place to get my car stuck. Yes, it is, and I'll be talking about that later. So, yeah, I went to Lacolla, and Lacolla was a rather busy town for where it was. And that was alright. And so I sort of headed north to northeast of the town. And because, yeah, I could see, you can see on, like, I think I use the app called Campermate, something like that. It shows you where a bunch of campsites are. And I could see that I could basically follow this one road and I'd be passing lots of different campsites. Oh, and to top this off, I was going, I can't remember when I was going exactly, but it was a busy time. So I thought, if I can find a campsite that's not busy now, then it will definitely be not busy when I'd planned to go camping, which was not in a busy period. So anyway, drove north, checked out a bunch of campsites, found some that were alright, but none really suited my needs. Excuse me, I'm just going to get a glass of water. That's better. My needs suited what I was looking for. So I went back to Lacolla, and by this stage, late afternoon, it's probably about 5:30 p.m. something like that. And so there's pretty much only one store. It's a general store in Lacolla. It doesn't have a pub. That's a rare thing. So the general store had closed, and that was the only real food source, I guess, in the area. So I thought, okay, I've got two options. Either I can head south and get back to Gippsland, and there'll be plenty to eat in Gippsland, or I can try go to Woods Point, another town that was about 60 odd k's away, and so I thought, okay, I'll go to Woods Point because there's I've been there once before, although I came a different way, and I thought, oh yeah, Woods Point is not that busy, and I think I might be able to find a good campsite. So I started heading towards Woods Point. The sign said 64 k's, and I thought, cool. It'll, given an average speed of, 30 k's an hour, if I'm being real conservative, then it'll probably take me about 2 hours to get there. All well and good. So I thought, I'll get there with plenty of time. So I headed along the roads towards Woods Point, and I'd downloaded Google Maps, and g'day YouTube. So I downloaded the Google Maps to the area, and I'd also taken a photo of like an information map that was in the collar, just in case there were anything that I didn't quite get. So I headed along this road which is called South Road. Now, South Road was reasonably good condition. I was travelling along at a reasonable pace, and I thought, yep, this is it was. I didn't want anything to my car is very outback, so it's obviously not a four-wheel drive, but it's not your average station wagon either. It can handle a little bit. I'm cutting in and out. Alright. A bit better. So, rather than my Wi-Fi, so let me know how this goes. Anyway, so yeah, my car can definitely handle some rough roads, but it's not going to be a serious four-wheel drive track. A little bit better? Okay, well, we'll go with it. One thing that I was driving along South Road, and one thing that and it was sunset at this point, and so I came across something that I wasn't necessarily expecting, and this was a bunch of cows. There was a bunch of cows that were just on the road, just chilling there, because it's the Alpines. They looked fairly well manicured and such. I don't know if that's quite the right word, but they didn't look like they were stray, although there was certainly no farmer anywhere in sight. So anyway, after taking a couple of photos, I slowly drove forward. I didn't want to startle the cows because I didn't want any of them running into my car or anything like that. But at the same time, I wanted to get past them. So anyway, managed to get past them, all good. Then I turned off South Road and I came to another road, onto another road. I can't remember the name of this one, but anyway, it started off as good as South Road. You know, dirt road, little bit bumpy. That's all right. No, nothing we couldn't handle. And then, just in patches, it started to become more and more like a four-wheel drive track. And so, yeah, it was like, interesting. We'll see how this goes. I hope this doesn't get worse. And I'd pass one section, and then, you know, that would slow me down quite a bit, but I'd get through it. And then the road would smooth up again. And then I'd hit another patch, and it was slightly worse than the last one. So I kept getting worse and worse, and I thought, I don't know about this. And at this point, it's getting real dark. I knew I'd missed the opportunity for the pub at Woods Point, but I thought, whatever, we will give it a go. I'll go to Woods Point, I'll check out the campsites, and then I'll go back to Gippsland and get some food there. And I did continue on, but it just kept getting worse and worse. And yeah, as I said, it was getting really dark. And I had to really toss up in my mind, did I want to continue or not? And so I had to turn around. It was unfortunate, but I didn't want to get the car stuck when there was no one around. I didn't want anything to break. Yeah. So I turned around, back to Lacola, back to Gippsland, I think. And then by the time I got back to Gippsland, it was like past midnight. So even the sort of late night fast food joints would have had closed, most of them, but I managed to get onto one 24-hour Macca's and got some food there at something like 12:30 at night. Got my dinner and yeah, drove back home. I should have just sent it. Oh yeah, I wish I could have just sent it, but that would have ended in disaster. So if I had the ability to recover myself, then maybe I would have done that. So yeah, that was my alpine adventure. Now the last weekend, the weekend before that, I also went on a random adventure looking for campsites. This time I was looking in the Grampians and the Otways. And I love both of those areas, they're great. And I was driving around the Grampians, and although I knew campsites I wanted to check out, I wanted to take the long way there because I just thought, I'm in such a nice area. I've been on all of the main roads in the Grampians before. Why not go on some of the back roads? And so I did. Went on some dirt roads, and the roads were in good condition. I could have easily gone 100 k's an hour down those roads, and yeah, the road would have been fine. However, I saw up ahead as I was driving that there were lots of animals running across the road. It was kangaroos, a lot of kangaroos, and a lot of emus as well. And I thought, I don't really want to hit either of them. My car doesn't have a bull bar or anything like that, so I was like, I'm going to slow down to 60, and I'm going to go 60 because I feel that if I'm going any faster, if a kangaroo or something jumps out in front of me, I won't be able to stop. And while going 60, I thought, I'll do a couple of brake tests when it's safe to do so, just to sort of see, I'll pick an upcoming tree or something like that, and then slam on my brakes at that tree and see, okay, how long does it take me to stop? Just so I can get a rough idea. And I did, and I found, I could stop within, 20 metres, something like that. And I thought, that's acceptable. So I continued on. I thought about slowing down a little bit further because, man, there are a lot of kangaroos and stuff just jumping across the road. The most I've ever seen driving around Victoria. But I thought, continue on 60, driving along, and then out of nowhere, kangaroo jumps in front of me, and I slam on the brakes. But unfortunately, I hear boom, and I can see, I've just hit this kangaroo at speed. And this has all happened within a split second. And I'll never forget seeing the kangaroo roll off the side of my bonnet. It was not a pleasant sight. But was certainly something. So the car came to a stop within 20 odd metres, and I got out, shut the engine off. Firstly went to the kangaroo to see, is the kangaroo okay? And I could see the kangaroo was still alive. It was not dead. Unfortunately for the kangaroo, the impact had broken its leg, and it had blood coming out of its eyes, and it was not a pretty sight. The bone wasn't sticking out or anything, but still, I didn't want to experience that, put it that way. I didn't really have anything on me that, because sometimes if a kangaroo's almost dead, and you're in an area where there's no reception or anything, sometimes if you've got something heavy, giving it a whack on the head just to put it out of its misery is the best option. It's not a great option, but sometimes it could be the best. But I actually did have a couple of bars of reception where I was. So I quickly Googled the wildlife helpline and called them and said, I've just hit a kangaroo, and gave them the details of, as best as I could, where I had hit it. And they said, okay, well, we'll send somebody out to euthanize it. And they said, I asked them, is there anything I can do? Should I stick around? Anything like that? And they said, no, honestly, you're scaring the kangaroo at the moment just by being there. You should just drive off if you can. Said, is your vehicle alright? I said, I think so, but I haven't really done a thorough check. So I hung up from the wildlife helpline and just checked out my car, trying to see what damage there was. And there was... I couldn't see any damage. and I thought, this is strange. I've just hit a kangaroo. Normally there's a bit of damage to your car. But anyway, I checked the oil. That was alright. Slightly on the low side, but okay. Checked the coolant. Again, slightly on the low side, but okay. And normally I carry around with me a bit of spare oil and coolant, but I didn't have any at that stage, which was slightly alarming if I had had an oil leak or something like that because of the situation. But I was still in reception, so I guess I could have called a tow truck if need be. But I looked under the car to see if I could find any leaks, and I couldn't. So, yeah, I thought, okay, I'll continue on and I'll just keep an eye on things and see how it goes. So I did, and I got to Hall's Gap and bought myself some oil and coolant, and ironically I witnessed another car hit a kangaroo, and that kangaroo actually died pretty quickly, even though it was a lower speed impact. So, I don't know. And I helped the woman who hit it to just come to grips with the situation. And yeah, and then a local came and, helped drag the kangaroo off the road and stuff. And they said, no, it just happens. It's unfortunate, but it just happens. So yeah. The Otways portion of that, nothing as eventful as the last two, but there was a crossroad in the Otways that was rather narrow. It was asphalt, but rather narrow. And yeah, that was an interesting one because a lot of cars were cutting corners, and actually something sort of eventful did happen. I almost had a head-on collision with a car that was coming around the corner too fast and was cutting the corner. But I slammed on my brakes and I stalled the car, and they narrowly missed me. They would have been millimetres away from hitting me. So, yeah. Eventful little search for a camping spot. Yeah, Floyd's misadventures. And to top it all off, the camping trip never ended up happening. So, yeah, all that for nothing, but hey, I got some good stories out of it, so I'm happy enough. Let's see. I was going to potentially talk about hiking, but I think I'll talk about another drive that I did, and then we'll see how much time we've got left after that. So this next little adventure, I published it somewhat on my Instagram stories at the time, but I haven't really talked about it, so here it is. This was the time that I went to Sydney to buy a car for my dad, and then drove the car back to Melbourne. So, to give you a bit of background, the car I was looking to purchase was an MX-6, a Mazda MX-6. It's a little sports car from the 90s, and my dad has always loved them. He's not a huge car enthusiast, but he likes a sporty car. And he's just always loved the MX-6s. And he bought one, or the company that he owned bought one back in 1996, I think, or 97. No, I'm not talking about an MX-5. I'm talking about an MX-6. The MX-5 is a convertible. The MX-6 is a coupe. So they are different. The MX-6 is not as well known as the MX-5. But yeah, Dad's company bought one new back in 97 or something like that. And then before he sold his business, sold the car to him for $1. The only problem was because my dad did very little driving, because a lot of the time he's worked from home, and even when he hasn't worked from home, he's always had an office very close by, because he works for a company that he's a programmer, and so yeah, it doesn't really matter where he works as long as he's got an internet connection. And so yeah, he doesn't drive much, but he never ever maintained his MX-6, or very rarely. I think he said that over the, I don't know, 10 is more than that, it's like 15 years that he owned the car, he serviced it maybe 4 or 5 times. So not much. And he wondered why every service was outrageously expensive. Anyway, so that car died, because yeah, it had very little servicing, and so he was a bit disappointed, and that was 2014, I'll say. And he's always sort of missed it a bit, but he always said that the one thing that he wished his old MX-6 had was a manual transmission, and the old one was always automatic. And so yeah, then it came very recently, it then came to a time where we were due to buy a new car, and I was looking at cars for sale, and I just so happened to see that there was a Mazda MX-6 in the colour he liked with a manual transmission that was for sale, and it looked good, and it was for sale in Sydney. And I talked to Dad, and we determined that I was going to fly up to Sydney and check the car out, and if I thought it was good, then I would buy it, and then I would drive it back to Melbourne. So yeah, I flew up to Sydney, checked out the car, checked out alright, bargained the price down, so we got it for $3,800, and yeah, drove it back to Melbourne. The car has no cruise control, so I was driving it on the freeway the whole way back to Melbourne without cruise control, and so my foot got a little bit tired on the accelerator, but hey, it was right. And yeah, the car has needed a fair bit of work since we've got it back, and yeah, g'day hooked on. But anyway, it's a nice car, and we're so yeah, that's the little story about the driving to Sydney, or driving back from Sydney in a new car. Alright. How about we switch it up a little bit? I'm going to talk about a non-driving trip. G'day, Leo. This is the time that I went to Adelaide to go to a music festival. Yeah. Now, I'm not normally the type that goes to music festivals and that sort of thing, but I felt like WOMAD was more... It was just a bit different. And my mum was going, and so she said she'd pay for my tickets, so I thought, yeah, sure, I'll go. And yeah, I enjoyed it. The sort of things that happened was there was an event on within the festival where they were throwing a bunch of powder before. And I'm sure I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again. The colour run, something like that. The event, I mean, not the powder. And powder gets thrown everywhere, and I just happened to be at the front of it all, and my camera got absolutely drenched in this dust, and it came out very colourful, but thankfully none of it got to the sensitive parts of the camera, and it was all good. I got the camera cleaned up, and I ended up, yeah, that's right. I left a few of my camera chargers and batteries in Adelaide at the place where I was staying, and that was really unfortunate, but I ended up getting them back. But yeah, it was something that was a bit interesting. Yeah. Thank you. And you'd like me to bring it back? Well, you can look at my own YouTube channel, Floyd Bromley, or you can still look at Fogarty Avenue. It's still there, and Les is still going on the occasion. So yeah. Okay, we've got 10-ish minutes left, so what else should I talk about? I've taken a couple of random scenic drives down to like the Mornington Peninsula and that sort of area before, but nothing particularly interesting has happened through them. Why did I split from Fogarty Avenue? There's a video on Fogarty Avenue that sort of explains this all, but basically because I had experience about how to do things, and I also wanted to do other things. It looks like I wanted to do a few train videos and that sort of thing. So that's why we split, because we had different ideas of how to do things. Les and I are still friends, and yeah, we just have different channels now, and I think that that's for the best. Back to driving, because most of my random adventures involve driving. And before I do, can I think of any random train trips that I've done? I have done a few, but yeah. Oh, okay. How about this? Here's a train adventure. This was the time that I went down to Traralgon because I wanted to just go on a train. And yeah, I got to Trelgan, had a wander around, and then found out that found myself on the very last train back to Melbourne, or due to get on it, and I had gotten pizza from the Domino's that was just outside of the station, and I didn't realise it, but I had left my backpack there, and when the train pulled into the platform, it stays there for a couple of minutes. I got on, put my pizza down, and then realised, oh shit, I've left my backpack in the shop. So I quickly ran out of the train. There were some PSOs in the station. I said, listen, I've left my backpack in the Domino's just outside the station. This is the last train. I need to catch it. Can you please hold the train for 1 minute while I just go run and get my bag? And they said, yeah, all right, mate. So thank you very much. Ran into Domino's. Am I back? Okay, I'm back. So ran back to the station, and yeah, the train was leaving. I thought, oh no, this is insane. And I ran up to the train door and I pushed on it, and I sort of gave the PSOs a look of despair, because I was like, oh, please hold the train. And I could see that they were indicating to the driver to stop, and they did, and they opened the door for me, and I got to Melbourne. Yeah. Story of my little adventure. 4-ish minutes left, so let's go back to a car story. You guys know that I've done a few hikes over the years, and I've done a few major hikes, and on the major hikes I've always done a scope trip. And the scope trip is like where I went out along the rough path by car and tried to find campsites and any sort of town amenities, that sort of thing. And so that was cool. And at one point, we were trying to check out a campsite in Lang Lang, I believe, and my car got bogged. See you hooked on? So yeah, the car was bogged. There was no and I was a little bit worried. Thankfully, I knew that, just spinning your wheels will only dig you in deeper. So I stopped spinning the wheels, and it was a very muddy sort of area. And I got out with Les, and we just searched for any sort of sticks, bark, anything that we could find to jam under the wheels. And yeah, jammed it under and got the car unstuck. So that was hair-raising situation. But yeah, I think that's the most eventful thing that's happened. We end up setting up camp in some random places, like I've camped just directly beside the train line before in Malort. One of my latest photo series on Instagram, you will have seen that. And I've camped beside an abandoned turntable that had very long grass all around it. I've camped underneath a trestle bridge. That was probably one of my favourite campsites of all time. I really liked that. And what else? Let's see, I've camped just I've camped on top of silos before. Yes, that's right, Nyora turntable. That was where I slept one night. Slept in scout halls. That's nothing too bad. I've just pulled up to the side of a random road one time and just sort of set up camp there. It was a dirt